Sweetheart, we got some dancing to do.
Hello everybody and welcome to Cage Fighting. Matt Guy here. How are we all?
We are very well. I presume I'll go second in this instance. Hello, everyone.
Hi everybody, I'm coming in at third, which it feels weird, but there is a reason for it.
Yes, there is a reason, because this is a musical episode and I will take the reins when it comes to music. Stu will eventually get hosting duties one day and we will keep that a secret as to what Stu hosts. It doesn't sound as sordid as it is. But it is a musical episode today and we are going to be talking about our top fives songs the world didn't know they needed, as in calibrations. No, that's not right.
Collaborations,
that's right. So artists have come together from different genres and created musical masterpieces, but ones that potentially came out of the blue, ones that the world didn't know they needed but are now considered classics. Before we get into that though, Stu especially, I think you've got to like the duet. I think, in the passing time, dating this podcast significantly, poor Olivia Newton-John going within the last week as well. God rest her soul, Stu. Pour a bit of liquor for her. Especially for old crooning music, which I know you've got a bit of a penchant for. You've got to love the duet.
Yeah, it was always one of them things. I mean, I went through a phase where it really annoyed me because when you went to see a certain artist perform, you'd never had the other one there, did you? So they're always singing to a backing track. Unlike when you had Paul McCartney singing to a reproduction of John Lennon at the whatever the hell that was going on. But yeah, it's a bit different, and I like a bit of difference. So yeah, I mean, I think this was surprisingly even. I mean, a lot of I'd say pretty much every one of these most people know what they are, but this was easier than I thought. Compared to some of the musical things that you've thrown at us in the past.
Well, Andy, you said that you had to take this down from a short list of about 20 to this 5. Were there any genres when you're putting your list together that you didn't encounter? Just genres that just do not mix together and no brave soul has even attempted it that you were surprised by?
There wasn't really, if I'm honest. My initial list, it was mostly had a rock edge to it. It was rock and something else. And I think that's probably because rock music, because it's got its roots in blues music, and then everything has probably got its roots in blues music to like some extent. So I think that it can meld quite well with other genre of music. So you can take it down a more country route. You could even take it into hip hop, because I feel that hip hop is very closely related to country music in that they're both stemmed from the slave trade way back, where obviously the blues were born. So I don't feel that there's any like hard and fast rule that you can't go there with music. I mean, it might come out the other end sounding absolute shite, but I always appreciate the effort, if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think of like some of the duets, some that haven't made my list, or not just duets in terms of individual artists, but bands that have come together. I do think there have been some absolute train wrecks, and maybe that's one for a question for another day. But we're after your favourites. For those listening along at home, when the episode drops, please feel free to tweet us or send us a little video or audio clip with your choices. We'd love to know your reaction to our list and the list of your own and tracks that we should listen to. And I think we'll probably end up creating a Spotify playlist so people can listen along at home as well. So let's kickstart it off then. Andy, what is your number 5 on your songs the world didn't know they needed in terms of duets or artists?
Well, I know it's a top 5, but my top 5 are pretty much in no particular order, because I've tried to hit a few different things with each pick rather than just going for my favourites. I've gone for the one which is a comedy take on the musical duet is taking my fifth place, and it's The Lonely Island and Justin Timberlake, and it's a trio of songs. It's Dick in a Box, it's Mother Lover, it's Three Way, The Golden Rule, because it's not gay when it's in a three way. I love Andy Samberg. I'm a big fan of Andy Samberg, and I quite like Justin Timberlake as well, I've got to be honest. So this musical collaboration, when it came together, it just hit all of the boxes for me. It was just a really good, fun, silly summer song. I think the first one I heard was Mother Lover, and then went back and discovered all of the other songs that came with it. And it's just this wonderful, silly little trilogy of songs that they pieced together. It's just excellent fun, and it's precisely what I feel you can do with a duet, because you're bringing together the world of the serious musician in Justin Timberlake and the comedy nonsense of an Andy Samberg and The Lonely Island, and it just works perfectly together.
It's funny because they got to a point with the Lonely Island stuff. Like at first, I think I'm not saying it was niche artists that were coming to them, but it became very soon a thing. Like you've got to get on the Lonely Island record, because now it's a sign of being a popular celebrity, as opposed to it not being this like niche weird thing that people did.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the 3 albums I think they've got out, you've got Adam Levine on there, you've got Rihanna, you've got Michael Bolton a few times. Like they've got a bit of everyone from the mega star to the 80s star in there, and it's quite cool.
Yeah. It was a great shout, to be fair. My number 5 is I might have shot myself in the foot here because that might not actually be true. I think it's the only person that's dead on my list. Because I have gone for quite topical on the basis of what's still out at the cinema now, but A Little Less Conversation by Elvis and JXL, Junkie XL. Now, I've got to give a shout out to James from work for this, because I was talking to him about this list and I had to make an amendment because he said, "Oh, what about that?" And I was like, "Oh God, I've just got to go in. It's got to go in." I think, if I'm right in thinking, they did a version of A Little Less Conversation on Ocean's 11, and I think that's what kickstarted this to be remixed and created into the song. And I think it went to number 1 in like a ton of countries and brought new eyes, or new ears, I should say, to Elvis, because the song's a banger. And obviously they focus on different areas of the mix, like they raise the drums and they raise the horns and stuff like that on this in the mix and bring that forward. But it's a really just funky and fun song that you kind of expect now at nearly any respectable party, I suppose, or at least like a broad party. And I don't think anybody really saw that coming, that Elvis in what would be the early 2000s, it probably would have been, would have like another number 1. So for that reason, that's why it's made my list.
It was on my list until quite late in the day, purely because it was a DJ and a singer. It was the only reason it didn't make my list, but it is a great song.
Yeah, it was one of my honourable mentions as well, and mainly because of the Nike advert.
Yes.
Was it the airport one? Is that where it came from, or was it the other one on the ship? I can't remember.
It was the one where they were playing 3 aside in like the back streets.
Yeah. I knew it was one of. I remember the football that they actually used with it. Was it the Merlin? It was one of the early Merlin ones. Yeah, super. I think I actually bought that as well. I bought that on CD single back in the day. Like I mentioned to Tara, where I bought the hamster song as well on CD single.
Oh my God, was that the one that was like that
Yeah. And fun fact, it got stolen out of Goldie's car in Leicester. Someone, because my bag was in the passenger footwell, and some hoodlums had just caved in the passenger side window, because we parked up obviously to get to the game. And the hamster song was in there. One of my old square Nokia phone was in there. It was broke, so that's why it wore on me. There's a few other things as well, but the hamster song CD single was stolen from me.
The ultimate opportunist.
Yeah, maybe that's what lured him in.
Never mind. Stu, what's your number 5 on your list?
So my number 5 is more cheery than that, it's Bing Crosby and David Bowie, Little Drummer Boy. I mean, how could it not be on this list? It's Christmas. You got two people who you'd never in a million years even put in the same room together, let alone sing together. And like you said, a bit of a crooner and wherever the hell David Bowie was. And it just works. It works on so many levels. It works as a pure Christmas song that you hear every year, and it probably, I think it was like in the top 40 again last year because of download charts and stuff like that. It's an all-time classic, and it should never have worked in a million years, but it does brilliantly.
What do you think Crosby would have thought about David Bowie? Do you think he would have, like, because I imagine they were put together by someone. I don't think it would have been like a mutual thing. I don't know. Do you think he thought, who the fuck is this guy?
Well, he's relatively sensible in that video, so you kind of think he ain't turning up as in full like glam and everything like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if he'd have known more about Bowie, who at the time I think would have been not long moved away from living in Berlin, goose stepping around the train stations. He was very much into his bisexual era at that time, Bowie was. I think Bing Crosby would have been saying quite a few slurs that probably wouldn't fly today if he'd have known who Bowie was at that point, I think.
I think you're probably right. Andy, give us your number 4, please.
Number 4, I fear might be on Stu's list. This was replaced late. Bing Crosby and Bowie was here originally, but it got replaced with another Christmas song, which is the Pogues and Christy McCall, Fairy Tale of New York.
Not on there. Carry on.
I'm shocked at that. I mean, this, I think, is the Christmas song, and it's more than just a Christmas song. You could put this on any day of the year and it still rings true. It's just a beautiful tale of a druggie and a woman who are at the end of their relationship trying to hold it together. And it's kind of tragic and beautiful and everything in between. And it's quite a mashup when you think that the Pogues were this Irish punk band, effectively, and Christy McCall was a pop princess from the UK. And their worlds should probably have never really have met, but they somehow did, and gave us this ode to Christmas devastation, almost, I think is probably the right word for it.
I wondered at what point or how quickly we would get the Tara go fuck yourself line, and it would be right about now, because I can't stand this song. It's got to be one of my least favourite Christmas songs, yeah. I hear it and it just makes my blood curdle. Like, it's just something about it. You know what I think it is? I think it's seeing like people enjoy it when they're pissed at on parties and stuff, and I look at them with like an American Psycho-esque disdain. It's just something about this song I can't stand.
That's the same as my mum as well. And every time it's on, she covers it. I mean, classically as well, they played it. I think we played Sheffield Wednesday. I think it was like 18th of December. And they played it at half time. So, I mean, any covering of her ears was just completely futile because they're playing it over the PA. You got no chance of the video. That's probably still on my Facebook from years ago. We might have to get that back in and put it on the socials as evidence. But it really is a song that you either love or hate. I mean, I've never hated it, but I think I appreciate it more now than I used to. It's just one of them. Yeah, it's the bad side of Christmas that no one wants to talk about, really.
I think it's mixed with a general dislike for folk music as well, or anything particularly Mumford and Sonsy. I'm not a big fan of, so I think that's probably where it falls in for me. Probably moving as far away from that as possible for my number 4. Two artists that I don't think, unless this project that they took part of ever happened, would never ever have come together. But this would be "Burning Down the House" by Tom Jones and the Cardigans. It is, honestly, go and listen to it. It is an absolute banger. It's so good. It reached number 1 like in a couple of countries, like Iceland, I think, and probably around Sweden, where the Cardigans, I think, were from. but it's funky as anything. Tom Jones has a spectacular voice. Like, he's got a really powerful, iconic, and you know it's Tom Jones when you hear him. But these songs just shouldn't work, but they do. And I didn't realize until like researching this was part of an album of songs he did called Reload, and
Yeah.
then obviously you had a couple of really awful ones on there, like the cover of "Are You Gonna Go My Way" with Robbie Williams, which I think is terrible. But there's a couple of other really good ones on there as well, like Stereophonics are on there for Mama Told Me Not to Come, and I just think it's a great song, and it's one of those that is so 90s, it's painful, but in a good way. In a good way.
Oh yeah, I'd got another song off that album on my honorable mentions list, which was his other Christmas song, which was
Baby It's Cold Outside.
Baby It's Cold Outside with Kerry Matthews. Their voices together are just it's honey and salt, is it? Like they sort of oppose each other but work really well together at the same time. They really enmesh well together, and it's wonderful. It's a great album generally, though, apart from that Robbie Williams one, which is it's like something out of fucking the Full Monty. Like, it's a bit too 90s.
Like the cover of In Excess, like the Never Tear Us Apart with Natalie Imbruglia as well. He's like, it's bizarre to hear, but it's really quite good at the same time. It's a strange album, really, because genre-wise, it's all over the place, and then you add the different artists that get involved with it. It's crazy. But where do you lie on Tom Jones, Stu? I've got a feeling. Are you a closet Tom Jones fan?
I'm not a closet Tom Jones. I love Tom Jones. Is great.
You're fully out on Tom Jones.
Absolutely. I think he's great. I mean, I that kind of era, I listened to a lot of Tom Jones, and I think the Green Grass at Home and all that kind of is the classic stuff. I think because my nan used to play it as well, kind of helps a little bit with that stuff. So you kind of it's ingrained into me from a young age. But yeah, I like, he's got his bit of a rogue side to him as well. So he's he never takes himself too seriously. He's Elvis and anecdotes over and over again. But yeah, I like Tom Jones. I think he's never so far done anything bad to anyone. So
we'll see. It all comes out in the wash. Andy, where do you lie on TJ?
I'm on Team Tom all day. If I was on The Voice, I would want Tom Jones to choose me. I think he was the second concert I ever went to, and it was fantastic. Yeah, it was such a good show. Like, he's a consummate showman, so he knew what he was doing. It was great. And I think part of it is growing up watching The Fresh Prince. So having seen the Carlton dance and so there is that element to it, but yeah, he's great. He's got a voice like very few other people have got in this world. And even at like 80 odd or whatever he is now, he's probably older than that, he's still got some pipes on him.
It's one of those, it's almost opera without it being opera music. His voice is so powerful as well. No, I completely agree. Stu, give us your number 4, please.
I mean, he's been mentioned, he's been slayed there a little bit. But mine is another Christmas song, and it is Mr. Robbie Williams with Nicole Kidman. And it's something stupid, which is that again. I'm not even saying that song even works. It works a hell of a lot more than a dad and his daughter singing it to each other, because that's fucked up. But in what world does Robbie Williams, showman and wherever he was at the time, and Hollywood darling Nicole Kidman, who thinks of these things? Who thinks of putting them two together to sing a ballad? Where does it happen? Because up until that point, I've never even heard them mentioned in the same kind of phrase together before. Oh, it's just baffling, and I think it's sickly and sweet, and I like that song. I'm not saying I didn't buy it. That wasn't a hamster song purchase, but I don't mind that song. If it comes on when it comes on the Christmas almanac, I never skip over it. I always listen to it. It has its place in the world.
Do you think that Christmas has a hold on duets? Do you think when you think of the duet, do you instantly go to Christmas songs? Do you think?
Not necessarily. I mean, spoilers. That's the only one on here, other than in the next three. There's not a Christmas song on there. So I think I think it just kind of, it's easier to get away with a lot of things at Christmas, and because you get the kind of it's festive, who cares? Everyone's pissed anyway. So I think that's probably why there's more calibrations together at Christmas time than any other time of year.
That's fair. That's fair. Andy, in terms of the duets and Christmas time, do you think, can people get away with more because people are wanting to spend more around Christmas, and Christmas number one is such an important thing, or it was in this country, that throw enough shit at the wall, something might stick and get you a Christmas number one if you're mixing two big artists together?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the crossing of the streams, isn't it? You've got Nicole Kidman, who I think when that song was out would have been hot off the back of Moulin Rouge. She was probably never quite as famous as she was at that point. Robbie Williams had just come off the back of his third album, Sing When You're Winning. He could do no wrong in this country at that point, so he released an album of crooner standards. So why not put the two hottest stars in the world together at that point? I mean, looking back to the 80s, you'd have had, like, was it Kim Wilde and Mel Smith from Smith and Jones, who did Rock Around the Clock together. Like, I know it's obviously a world away, but it's bringing together more than just one thing. It's music, and it's an actor, or it's comedy, and it's musician. It's a bit of everything. And at Christmas is about coming together. So I think you do get away with it somewhat that you probably wouldn't in the summer months.
No, that's absolutely fair. Absolutely fair. Andy, slide us down the flagpole to number 3, please.
Number 3, I wanted to go for a lesser known band with a big singer for this choice. It came down to a choice of 3. It was Crystal Castles with Robert Smith, but I don't know Crystal Castles enough for them to make the list. There's Churches with Hayley Williams from Paramore. I love Bury It. It's such a great song, but I liked Churches beforehand. So the one I've gone for is a band I didn't particularly like before, who was elevated, and it is Death in Vegas featuring Liam Gallagher, which is Scorpio Rising. Death in Vegas prior to this song were mostly dirge rock. They were a bit scuzzy and quite shit, I thought. Their songs just, I don't know, they just got the hackles up on the back of my neck. They just didn't sit right with me. I don't know what it was. It felt dirty and not in a good way. And then they brought in Liam Gallagher for this song. And the way that they produced their music for this, it was so shiny and clean and nothing like what you expected from them before. The introduction of Gallagher raised their game so much. This song it's far and away the best thing they ever produced. It was excellent. Okay. And Gallagher comes in and he's got all of the swag. He was at the prime of his vocal career. He was excellent in this song. That's my track.
I can't say I've ever heard of it, to be honest. I'm gonna have to listen to this. I'll probably know it by ear, but not by name. Because it sounds. So when you say like dirge before, we're talking like garage rock, or what we kind of stuff we're talking about that they were normally like?
Not even garage rock. Just sort of like proper lo-fi kind of sounds, like almost mumbling their way through songs. And I don't mind a mumbler. Like, I like Bob Dylan. I think he's amazing. But it was really low quality production values mixed with lo-fi kind of sounds.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, but it just didn't click with me at all.
Okay, fair enough. My number 3 is probably as different as the genres get of all of the ones on my pick. And it was a song made specifically for an event. And this is No Leaf Clover, the song by Metallica and the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra. So these two get together after Metallica had released, I think, the Black Album. They had this album, and then it all really went wrong for Metallica. They went country, and did load and reload, and it rubbed people up the wrong way. Then Jason, the bassist, left the band before the absolute cluster that was Saint Anger and all everything that comes with it. If you've not seen Some Kind of Monster, I think it's on Netflix. It might not be anymore. That is a documentary that tells you about the fall of man in musical form, because the way that these, let's face it, they're millionaires, verging on billionaire. I imagine the Metallica brand is. How that band just falls apart is is laughable, to be fair. But No Leaf Clover is just. I do think some classical music is heavy, and I mean by heavy, like end of the world kind of symphony, War of the Worlds kind of music. And I think that No Leaf Clover is the two bands come together. Well, the two bands, San Francisco Symphony Orchestra and a band, but the two come together really well and create something really special. And I don't think it's unusual now to see orchestras or bands with other artists and stuff like that. But for this song, it just felt really special. The problem is they did it again about 25 years ago, later, and it just didn't work as well, because I think they tried to milk it as like a musical event as opposed to these Metallica classics that had just been changed into, added a big band feel to it, which was a bit of a shame, really. Have you heard any of that, Stu? I know you're not really that big of a rock fan as maybe me and Andy are. Have you ever heard any of the Metallica S&M stuff?
No, it sounds fascinating now you've said it. I was thinking, like, it sounds a bit like a kind of that kind of symphony orchestra version of like when people go on Jules Holland and do the jazz equivalent. It seems that kind of thing.
It pretty much is. Imagine any kind of John Williams score that they're doing it for a heavy metal film. It's basically that. So it's a heavy metal film where there's a chase scene and there's loads of strings. It's that. That's essentially how it comes out. Andy, have you listened to any of the S&M stuff that Metallica did?
I have, but I'm not a big Metallica fan.
No, I know you're not, to be fair.
It didn't really hit with me. It's an excellent, in theory, it's excellent. I think had it been a band other than Metallica, I probably would love it. But their music just does very little for me. And similarly, though, I would go to something like the Tim Minchin tour that he did with the orchestra, where he went and did a 100-piece orchestra following him around, doing his silly dick joke songs. Like, it's a similar sort of vibe in that they just completely change it up. And it does work so well when it's done right. And I think for a fan of Metallica, you would absolutely love that. It just didn't sit with me.
That was only one of two cinema screenings I've gone to at the Everyman in Birmingham. I went to the one where they did the big four, so it was Metallica, Anthrax, Megadeth, and Slayer did a once in a lifetime tour, and they showed one of the screenings there of the gig, and then they did S&M 2 live, like a live screening of it while. No, that couldn't have. It couldn't have been a live screening because it'd have been so much stupid in the morning. But they did like a showing of all around the world at the same time of this film at these cinemas, and it was then when I realised that, like, I don't know if music works in a cinema, or at least not rock music like that, because you had people like singing along at full volume, and I'm like, I'm not here to listen to you. I'm here to listen to the band, even though the band aren't there. It was weird. It was weird.
I've never been to the cinema for anything other than a film. I mean, I'm quite tempted because there's Jodie Comer's doing a play at the London National Theatre that they're putting on there at the moment. But I don't know. It feels weird to go and see something that isn't a movie at the cinema.
I've said this before. I'm sure I've said it on here that my mother-in-law goes to watch Nutcracker every year at the cinema, and it's always packed out every year. And you think, I suppose, in that case, because it's so hard to get tickets for, and it's so expensive as well, it's the next best thing to, as a kind of Christmas tradition, to do something like that. In that case, I'll be up for it. But I know a lot of people who they won't watch they won't watch Glastonbury on BBC because you're not there. So I mean, it's obviously a different experience, but I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, I'd love to watch like Familiar to Millions, the Oasis live gig at the old Wembley, and I've mean, that DVD is actually dead. I killed it off. So not many DVDs actually broke from overuse, but yeah, that was one of them. But yeah, I'd do it. But it's just getting the right thing at the right time, I think.
That's fair. Stu, your number 3, please.
And talk about the right thing at the right time. It's Stevie Wonder and Paul McCartney, Ebony and Ivory, which would that be allowed to today? Because it's about, I haven't heard that song on radio, I don't think ever. And there's when you think it's all about kind of mixing together inequality and everyone's the same, I think it's so weird. And you got Stevie Wonder, what would it be categorized as? Kind of funk soul kind of thing at that kind of time, that kind of bit of Motown as well. And then you got Paul McCartney, and obviously from his point of view, and again, shouldn't work. I don't think it actually does work, but it's one of them that's stuck in my mind. And I have the vinyl in the loft. I don't know whose it was. It's obviously parents or uncle or something. But that was when you said it, Matt, that was the first one on the list straight away.
Oh, really?
Because there's that and another one to come. That the only two out of the list I actually own physically.
Incredible. At what point do you think the world needed this? Is it to break cultural divides, or what's the want and need of the world?
I think seeing a blind black man and Paul McCartney singing about racial equalities is something we all need every time of day. I think it's so weird that it had to happen just so that it didn't happen again.
It's not a case of if we can we do it. It's a case of if we should do it. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Right, I hear where you're coming from. Excellent. Andy, finish off this little section with your number 2, please.
So my number 2, I wanted to go for something that it changed opinions of the main artist here. The song is Taylor Swift and Bon Iver Exile, which was on Taylor Swift's album Folklore. The perception of Taylor Swift prior to Folklore was very much that she's this countrified pop princess that's a little bit throwaway. And to be honest, I don't think Taylor Swift has ever really been that. It's just that she's an attractive young woman, so people immediately pigeonhole her into a specific type of music. And then going with someone like Bon Iver, who has got this credibility as more than a musician who's like quite deep and brooding and dark. And they came out with this beautiful sounding song, Exile, on this album. It was such a wonderful piece of music. Just loved it. And I feel that maybe that album in its entirety did change perceptions of Taylor, where people now see her as a singer-songwriter. I think they finally respect that she's more than what she was pigeonholed to be prior to that. But by giving her this indie credibility of pairing her up with someone like Bon Iver, it just took her off into a whole new direction. Originally, my top 5 list, I was going to make a joke, and all 5 of my answers were going to be Taylor Swift with Shawn Mendes, Taylor Swift with Brendan Urie, Taylor Swift with B.O.B. Like I couldn't find a 5th song to put into the top 5 of Taylor Swift collaborations. But yeah, my number 2, Taylor Swift and Bon Iver, Exile. It's wonderful.
One of my favourite memories would be of my entire clubbing life, and I don't just mean of recent memory. I'm talking my entire clubbing life was dancing to Taylor Swift with you, Andy, in Planet. It was a memory that's very, very close to my heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say, not so much when he was dancing to Steps with Me in the grain store.
No.
Which then led to that GIF that he's forever haunted his dreams. And one day Twitter when we figure out how to get it on there.
Is that the origin? That was
it was Christmas. Oh. It was Christmas, and me and Goldie obviously knew all the dance moves to it and everything, and he was just shaking his head in disgust.
It was Goldie's stag do, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
because he was dressed up like Macho Man Randy Savage. And I just wasn't impressed with the musical choices.
So my number two was a song that was originally released. A artist took it and added themselves into it, which was then taken on by the original artist who released it on their next album. So it was released on two separate albums, but the same song, and that would be "Bring the Noise" by Anthrax and Public Enemy. It came to me through Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, which was one of those games which quite literally changed my life from a musical point of view, because that's how I got into Papa Roach. And Papa Roach was then the gateway to Limp Bizkit and Slipknot and everything else. And it also had this song on it. It had Rage Against the Machine Testify on it as well. But this song, it's a heavier version of Walk This Way, Aerosmith from Run DMC, in that it's two similar, it's artists of those genres that come together, but it's a really fun song. But Anthrax have this moniker of being mixed with the big four of thrash, but they have a lot of fun music as well. It's not all they have a song called I'm the Man, which is basically like a rip off of the Beastie Boys. And they talk about kind of being Jewish and stuff like that, and it's a really fun song. And I think if you listen to it, it's one of those you could be driving in your car and listening to it. If you want to unwind after like a bad day, you can listen to it. If you want to party and have a good time, you can listen to it. It's just a really fun song with two artists that should never work. And one of the quotes I really like about this, Chuck D really disliked it when it came together. He didn't take the song seriously, but once he heard it, it made too much sense, is what he said. It was like it was just meant to be the two bands to put this song out together. It's a really fun song, and one that I say kind of shaped my musical tastes to come in future years.
It's really interesting because like Public Enemy are like one of the most serious bands ever. They're like the antithesis of Beastie Boys. The Beastie Boys are all about big sounds and parties and stuff. And then you've got Public Enemy. I mean, Fight the Power is literally one of their songs. They're the most political band ever. So to then put them into that with Anthrax, that, like you said, that shouldn't work at all.
It shouldn't, no, but it really does. Like it's just a great song, and it doesn't, I don't think, get the love in terms of like nightclub plays or anything like that, but it's definitely one that goes on like my pre-drink party playlist, put it that way.
I think that game did a lot for a lot of bands. I think that was probably
sure.
Either the first or the second one was the first time I ever heard Superman. I mean, I'd never heard that before. And like you, I mean, it didn't shape me like it did with you, but a lot of them songs, when I hear them now, it's like the muscle memory, the song memory comes back playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 or 2. I mean, that's why. I mean, now they got given the remake with PlayStation Plus a couple of months ago, and it's been installed there. I ain't touched it yet because I know everyone says it feels the same and everything, but thankfully that soundtrack is still on there from both games, and that was the whole.
Wow, that's great.
The whole point about it, and the licenses are apparently done for like 50 years, so they're never going to be took off. So, well, in our lifetime anyway. So, yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, that was. I mean, when was that? 97, 98, something like that. It's got to have been.
Yeah, it was a while ago. I mean, I need to make a slight before Twitter attacks me. It was Guerrilla Radio by Rage Against the Machine, but for the wrestling geek amongst us, it also had When Worlds Collide by Powerman 5000, who I think also appeared on like a SmackDown versus Raw or something like that, which again was like where I got the majority of my music, along with FIFA 2004.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a big thing back in the day what music made the FIFA games. I remember when that Jerk It Out came out on, I think it was 2004, and that it just was a mega hit on the back of, I believe, on that game.
I mean, even up to fairly recently, I remember, I can't remember the name of the band, but they did a song, Rah, 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 Wrecking Bar. And like I
Yeah.
don't know much about them other than that one song, and then it's on the radio, and all of a sudden, oh shit, these are on there, and it's still a thing, I believe, which is quite incredible, really, for a game to have that reach.
Well, like Road to World Cup '98 had Sung 2 on, and that gave that a new lease of life years after it came out. I think there was one later again, Robbie Williams, "It's Only Us," which was a double A side, and that was only because it was the soundtrack to the game. Well, to the opening credits of the game that year. Then we should put this on a future podcast about the influence that them kind of things have.
Maybe when we do when we do a gaming episode, we can think about that one.
Yeah.
Future plans being made. I like it. Stu, give us your number 2, please.
I mean, my number 2. I mean, I remember the first time I heard this was when it was either. I mean, for context, I never used when I was a young buck, and I my uncle used a pass in the Legends Club at Molyneux, so we used his car park pass, and we used to drive up there, but we didn't leave till like 1:30 because there was no need because the car parking space is literally there. So we get there, but so I'd watch telly for ITV first, and it was either CD UK or the chart show. Can't exactly remember. But when this came on, I thought that's one of the most incredible things I've ever heard. And of course, it was "I'll Be Missing You," Puff Daddy, I think at the time, and Sting. Because, yeah, it had. I didn't know at the time what the meaning was of that song, but I thought this is incredible. Because obviously I'd heard the Police version for years, again on car journeys and whatever, and then to hear that kind of interruption in the song as well just blew my mind. And I think it was number 1 for months or something like that. It felt like that anyway.
It's not a song that really would jump out, but this is what's great about these kind of lists is that we've got the different musical tastes that what jumps out to you is like a great duet that has come a bit of a surprise. But as soon as you started talking about it, then I thought you were going to talk about that Fugees song. What was it called, Tice? What was it called? The Fugees one?
Killing Me Softly.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. I thought that's what we were coming out with at first, but then it didn't go down that way at all. I think like reworkings of songs like that, like you said about the Police version, is when like things like this really come into their own, and like when a song gets a new lease of life but a new style, which makes it really, really interesting.
I think that's where we got the rise of the superstar producer in your likes of Puff Daddy and Pharrell Williams. That's where I think they've really came in and smashed it out of the park by taking these established songs and just giving them a new lease of life.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think like anything, like the fact that all films now are just remakes over and over and over. I think there's a lot of money to be made in this in kind of rehashing old stuff, which I think you probably see more and more of this kind of stuff. Really, but you know, I'm surprised that after Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man and this Elvis film that we haven't had more of that. To be honest, like I thought we'd have had more like renaissances of these bands getting number ones and stuff. I don't think anything happened with Queen, unless I remember incorrectly.
Not that I recall. I think didn't Elton have? I mean, it might be like fairly recently, but didn't Elton have an album out where it was? I don't know if it was covers or if it was reworkings, but he did songs with like Dua Lipa and new artists breathing new life into old songs.
That song's amazing, though.
I don't think I've heard it. I don't really know who Dua Lipa is. I just know the name.
You would have heard it. You would have been living in a cave if you hadn't heard that song. It's like a mashup of 3 of his songs into one, and it just works.
Okay.
And he's only seen Dua Lipa on mute, if you can. So that's 5 down to 2. So can I get some of your honourable mentions, please, Andy? Ones that didn't quite make the list but are worthy of a little love.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick out a few, and I'm doing some on the fly editing here. My number 1 is now. I'm going to put my honourable mentions because actually I don't think it's all that unexpected. It's the Cribs featuring Lee Ronaldo in a song called "Be Safe." Lee Ronaldo from Sonic Youth. So I don't think it's unexpected to see the Cribs, who are a mid-fi band, alongside Sonic Youth. Like they're very similar. But this, I feel, was the song that took the Cribs from being a sort of undergroundish, like they were known to certain people, but not far and wide. And then Lee Ronaldo comes in, and it's like, okay, you're a big, big name in this band. And then 12 months later, the Cribs have got their next album, which is featuring Johnny Marr, and all of a sudden the Cribs are known far and wide. And it's just a fucking excellent song anyway. It's probably my favourite song on this list. I just don't think it's all that unexpected, so that's why it's not on my list now. Vic Reeves and the Wonder Stuff, Dizzy, great fun. Ben Folds and Rufus Wainwright did a cover of Careless Whisper. They're two of my favourite singer-songwriters doing an absolute George Michael classic, so that's why that's on there. Alicia Keys and Jay-Z, Empire State of Mind, love that song, but again, it's probably not all that unexpected to have an R&B singer and a rap superstar working together. And also want to make mention of Queen and David Bowie, Under Pressure. That's a really good singer helping out a terrible band to get over, so that's why that's there. And
I didn't realise
Wyclef
David
Jean,
Bowie was in a band.
Wyclef Jean and The Rock, it doesn't matter.
That's got to have been on there, to be fair.
Of course.
I only have one honourable mention on this list because they go anyway, I suppose, but it's the one song. If I can only listen to one song again for the rest of my life, I'm listening to this song, and that is the Urban Assault Vehicle version of Rollin' by Limp Bizkit. Because it's so fun and it's so ridiculously over the top, but it's just it just brings an overwhelming wave of happiness on me whenever I hear that song, which has got Method Man on it, Swiss Beats, Redman on it as well. It's just Limp Bizkit were always the rappier side of rock anyway, and then Wu-Tang were always Wu-Tang, so it goes anyway. So it's not really a duet that you don't expect, but fuck me if I don't love that song and want to hear it every day till the day I die. Even when I'm 80 in an old person's home, I want to be keep rolling, baby. You know what time it is.
Yeah,
How about yourself?
I mean, mine. We've kind of mentioned a few like Sir Tom Jones, etc., and the Elvis one. There's a couple. I mean, I can't believe we haven't mentioned, unless it's going to be number one for you, Eminem and Dido, Stan. That just seems completely different worlds collide. I
completely forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's more of a thing now that you get like rap and rap rock cross with like pop singer kind of thing, but back then it didn't seem that obvious, especially someone like her. I mean, I had her album. That I mean, everyone had that album. That was in my old CD burning days as well. We used to distribute them through the school every week, and it was a nice twee kind of calming album. And then you put it with Eminem, who at the height of his powers, and again, not my kind of thing normally, but I really like that song. Another one, mid 90s. So, and I am, without looking, I'm pretty sure this was on one of the Now albums, but heavily edited. And it's Smokey and Roy Chubby Brown, and Alice. And because of that, for that kind of then few months when that came out, it was everywhere, but only after 9 o'clock, obviously. And even then, it was blanked. So I mean, seeing Chubby Brown a few times, well, more than a few times live, and that's obviously one of his theme tunes. But I never heard of Smokey before that. That was kind of my way into that kind of 70s kind of shitty Smokey filled glam rock kind of sub T-Rex kind of band, and they're okay. They are what they are. It sounds like they should have been like on the soundtrack of Life on Mars more than a lot of people on there. But yeah, that should never have worked, and don't know how it was even commissioned to be released. as a single, but it was, and the world was happier for it.
Excellent. Thank you, Stu. So, Andy, what is your number one on this esteemed list?
So my last minute edit was to pick Aerosmith and Run DMC Walk This Way. It had to be. I think the only song which is older is the David Bowie, Bing Crosby one that Stu picked, which in fairness, that song is very much a song of one style. This song sort of defines what this list is to me. This is very much the two separate musics coming together to create something new. I feel this was probably the first time that had ever really happened. I recently saw a documentary, I can't remember if it was on YouTube, to be honest, about the making of this song and how I think it was originally an Aerosmith song that Run DMC then came to, and it was very much this whole "we're not doing that white crap" sort of thing was the original feeling towards a black rap band taking this song from a very, very white audience. There was quite a lot of hostilities towards it, but when it was released, it just completely changed the world almost. And as your title is on this episode, this is what the world needed. It was about the coming together of two separate sides of the coin to create something one like it. So yeah, that's why it's on there for me. I think it's a great song. I like Run DMC so much, and I feel that they've probably got a little bit overlooked over the last couple of years. I know we had that one song, the It's Tricky, that was released that got a bit of love, but then there was never really a Run DMC renaissance. Even in the death of Jam Master Jay, we never got that second wave of Run DMC's music that we probably should have done.
You're missing the one with Jason Nevins there. It's like that was number one for again longer than it should have been. It seemed that he never went away.
It's interesting because Aerosmith, they were massive, but they were still quite poppy in their world. And I can't say to know this as fact, but I always thought that Run DMC were one of those more, not poppy, but more mainstream of that kind of hip hop. So for those two to come together makes sense now, but at the time when it came out, I think people would have thought, "Wow, what the hell is this? This is crazy." At the time, I think now when you think about it, like the art and the song is so everybody knows it, like it's so widely loved and popular now that you think, how did it not happen any earlier? It just makes absolute sense now, but at the time, it was definitely something like a shot in the arm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 1980s America, race relations were as terrible as they are now, to be perfectly honest. But it did help break down barriers somewhat, at least in the music scene, which I think when you see people you admire doing it helps you on a personal level, I believe. So I'm not saying it ended racism, because it obviously hasn't. I do think it certainly helped a hell of a lot, though.
Excellent, thank you. My number one, I'm going to give you a little. Well, you'll know it if you know your pub quizzes, maybe. The first hint: it is the third most successful song ever on the Billboard Greatest of All Time Top 100 Songs. Does that help you any at all?
Is it Will Young and Gareth Gates singing "The Long and Winding Road"?
Sadly not. I wish it was. Okay, the next fact then for this: it is the only song to appear on 2 decade-end Billboard charts. It was the final number one of the 1990s and the first number one of the 2000s in America.
I thought that was I was going to say I thought it was Cliff Richard, but obviously that'd just be in the UK, wouldn't it? I'm out. I haven't got a clue. It's going to be really obvious now as well, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, it's
no
great audio.
Well,
is it?
if you know me, if you don't know me by now, that's not a hint. It's the one song other than Sledgehammer that I would pick at a karaoke, if that helps you in any way. No, that doesn't help you. I'm going to put you out your misery. It is Smooth by Santana, featuring Rob Thomas.
Hang on. How is that successful?
Honestly, it's fucking huge. Like, it is huge. It broke like all sorts of records for absolutely ages. It was it's absolutely, it was 12 weeks number one in the US.
I mean, the Latino market is massive in America. You've only got to look to someone like Bad Bunny, who is the biggest selling artist in the world, and I only know him because of wrestling. Like, he's huge because of the Latino sales in the US. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's something to be reckoned with. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. To give a bit of like backstory to this, when I say like it's something that was unexpected, the last single that Santana as a band released, so this was 1999. He hadn't released a single since 1985. He'd been going into the mid 60s up to this point, and this is what happens when you get a fresh lease of life with an artist. You just can sometimes create magic, and this people people won't know who Santana is, but they'll know this song. It's just huge, and it's so funky, and it makes me think that I can sing when I sing along to it in the car, though I probably can't. It's pop, yeah, it's pop, but it's Latina funk. It's a bit of rock. It's sexy as well. There's just something about this song that just absolutely hits all of the spots that I like when it comes to music that isn't screaming horrible heavy metal. And I just love this song, and I don't think anybody saw it coming either, because, like I say, apart from to maybe the Latino audience and to guitar enthusiasts, Santana wasn't in the public eye. He hadn't, like I say, hadn't released a single for nearly 14 years. So for that reason, that's why this tops my list, because it's one of the most successful songs of all time, and it was completely unexpected.
Who is Rob Thomas? Like,
Yeah, I'd never heard of him before this song.
He was with Matchbox 20, I think.
okay, I've heard of them, but I couldn't tell you anything by them.
I think they were just one of these like American bands of like the late 90s, early 2000s that were like 10 a penny, that were like, you know, American Pie bands, or like our rise of the indie movement, like the Pigeon Detectives, when stuff like the In-Betweeners came out.
They're like the New Radicals, that sort of level of.
Yeah.
You mean you
almost,
too?
Yeah, you too. They're like the American version of Indie Landfill, almost.
Yeah, I can only assume so.
Yeah, like a shit version of Train.
Train, yeah.
Don't mock Train. Train are great.
That's a podcast on its own.
Hey Soul Sister is a good song. I'll give him that one.
Hold on, I'm not thinking of the same band. I'm not thinking of the right band. I'm thinking of Keen.
Oh no, Keen.
Oh
is
God.
No,
That's
they
probably
were
the
awful.
quickest we've ever agreed about anything.
Keen and Embrace are like. We always used to have this little thing, but if we've gone to some kind of far-flung away game on a Tuesday night, I'd always put "Come Back to What You Know" on and depress myself even more.
I didn't mind Embrace. Embrace were okay. I think I've seen them live. They were fine, but yeah, they're definitely no Keen anyway.
I want you to listen to Smooth by Santana. For the audio listener, well, we only have it on audio, thankfully, because I don't have any shorts on at the moment. Andy doesn't have a shirt on at the moment, and I don't know what Stu's got on under that vest. So it's a hot one. 30 degrees in the midday sun is other words, I think. So whatever it is. Have a listen to it tonight when you finish, gents, and I think you'll fully agree with me that this song is an absolute belter. But Stu, finish us off. What's your number one pick?
I mean, being finished off after listening to Santana has probably happened more than enough times. Mine's also from 1999, and is related to someone who's already been mentioned already. And just the bemusement itself. I mean, one of the collaborators could be marked as a hazardous material, maybe. But you're never going to get it anyway. It's the Chemical Brothers and Noel Gallagher. Let Forever Be. Again, at that time, they hadn't really done anything apart other than Oasis, and for him to go out of his indie bubble and his songwriter bubble to go to do something with a band who were more famous for, well, acid, the acid ecstasy movement and being the soundtrack to the Wipeout games. Very, very much a kind of a swing for him, and that was the other single that I'd bought. This one, and I heard it the first time. It was more than likely on either John Peel or Lamac had played it on Radio 1, just because of who it was. And I thought, this is amazing. And I couldn't get enough of it. And it was one of them where you listen to it, then you listen to the track 2 and 3, which are just radio edit and whatever because of being the Chemical Brothers. And again, not really my kind of thing. Prodigy and whatever, and a lot of them kind of on the fringe of dance music, which wasn't really my thing at the time and never really has been. But them two together, I love this song, and you don't hear it hardly ever anymore. And I don't really know why, because I mean we've had a lot of like rehashes of '90s songs that have, like we said, about like the rise of the producer bringing back things. I mean, we are seeing and hearing things from the '90s being remixed and brought back now, which is terrifying. This seems to have just died a death, and people have forgotten about it, and I don't really know why, because it's a proper banger.
Okay, well, that is our top 5 done and dusted for this musical episode. Thank you very much for listening, and please make sure you get your lists over to us as well, because like our 3 for probably the first time in a top 5, or at least that I can ever think of, that we haven't had the same choices. I think Stu might have had Run DMC taken away from him at the last minute. It felt like by a pained look on his face. Thank you very much for listening. Get your lists over to us so then we can hear your tunes as well, because you know we all like different things musically. There were some songs that I've never heard of on the gents list, and I'm sure some of them are new to them as well. So thank you. And Andy, if you'd like to say goodbye.
Just before we go, next podcast is going to be a picture pod on the film Rumblefish. So check out justwatch.com to see where that one's going. And goodbye from me.
This is me. This is me, Rusty. This is why I don't do the hosting, you see. This is why Andy is the main man. And I should preface the ending by saying, make sure you've got us on Twitter and on all the socials at Cage Fighting Pod to get all of your juicy cage fighting news. Stu, if you would like to say goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Listen to Santana.
And it's goodbye from me. And remember, party on, dudes.
Do you like music?
Do you like breathing?
Right. It's a dumb question.